The early morning rain pattered over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, casting a gray veil across the landscape on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 7:15 a.m. PKT. The air thick with the earthy scent of damp pine needles and the musty aroma of moss clinging to the towering Douglas firs. The mist hung low, softening the rugged trail where puddles reflected the overcast sky. The sound of raindrops tapping leaves a steady drumbeat. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness and wide-eyed wonder, a 9-year-old with a mop of curly brown hair plastered to his forehead, trudged along the path, his blue raincoat glistening with water, its hood pulled tight against the chill, his sneakers, caked with mud, squelched with each step, the noise blending with the drip of rain from the fir branches overhead. In his pocket, a small sketchbook bounced, a treasure trove of pencil drawings of the park's wildlife, from owls to deer to the heron he'd glimpsed by the shore, a habit born from his late father's love of nature. Noah loved these mornings, the park's wildness a refuge since his dad's passing 2 years ago, when the man's gentle stories of forest creatures had filled their evenings. Today felt different, though, a pull drawing him deeper along the trail, past the usual squirrel, nests and fern clusters. His breath fogged in the cool air, his gloved hands clutching the sketchbook's edge, when a faint sound broke the rhythm, a scrape, uneven and desperate, threading through the rain's patter. His heart skipped, his dark eyes scanning the mist. He slowed, the mud sucking at his sneakers, and peered ahead. There, half hidden by a fallen log, was a German shepherd, dragging himself along the trail, his hind legs limp and trailing behind, claws scraping the wet earth in a futile effort to move. His black and tan fur was matted with mud and streaked with blood from a gash on his side, the wound glistening red under the rain's wash. The dog's brown eyes met Noah's, wide with pain and a flicker of hope, his breaths shallow and ragged, each exhale a faint whimper that pierced the morning calm. The firs loomed taller, their branches swaying as if bowing to the scene, the mist curling around them like a shroud. "Oh no," Noah whispered, his voice trembling, barely audible over the rain's steady drip. He dropped to his knees, the wet earth soaking through his jeans, his hands hovering inches from the dog's muzzle. The shepherd's whimper grew, a sound that sliced through Noah like a blade, stirring a mix of fear and determination. The blood, diluted by rain, pooled slightly in the mud, suggesting hours of exposure, perhaps abandoned after a storm that had battered Seattle the night before. How long had he been here? Noah's mind raced, picturing the dog left by careless hands, surviving on sheer will, his trust in humans broken. The air grew heavy with the scent of pine sap and wet fur, a contrast to the dog's labored breaths, grounding Noah as his heart pounded. He'd read about injured animals in library books, how they communicated distress with whimpers, how their resilience could defy odds. But this was different. This was real. A living creature staring into his soul, begging for help he wasn't sure he could give. He thought of his dad, whose hawk had once rallied the neighborhood with its cries, and felt a surge of resolve. He couldn't leave this dog here, not when those eyes held a plea he couldn't ignore. "Hold on," Noah murmured, his voice cracking as he glanced around. The park was quiet, the rain masking any distant footsteps, the trail a lonely stretch between the firs. He pulled his sketchbook from his pocket, flipping to a blank page, and tore off a corner, scribbling a note with a stubby pencil. "Injured dog on trail. Help." He tucked it into his raincoat, planning to run home, but hesitated. The dog's paw twitched, reaching toward him, the movement weak but deliberate, as if sensing the boy's intent. Noah's breath hitched, tears prickling his eyes behind his fogged glasses. He didn't know how to save him, but he knew he had to try. The firs swayed, their whisper a call from the Seattle wilds he loved. Footsteps squelched behind him, a park ranger, his radio crackling, approaching with concern. Noah's stomach dropped, his mind flashing to the trouble he might be in, but the dog's whimper pulled him back. The shepherd's eyes locked on his again, a silent trust forming in that moment, a hook that caught Noah's heart and wouldn't let go. This wasn't just a stray. This was a companion waiting to be saved, a story waiting to unfold. The scene held, the rain a distant heartbeat, the firs a cathedral of green, Seattle's misty beauty framing a moment of encounter that would ripple through the park. The late afternoon rain intensified over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, its heavy drops drumming against the earth on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:14 p.m. PKT. The towering Douglas firs swaying under a gusty wind, their branches groaning as the air thickened with the sharp scent of pine needles and the metallic tang of blood seeping from the injured German shepherd. The sky had darkened prematurely, a slate-gray canopy pierced by the occasional flash of lightning, casting jagged shadows across the muddy trail where Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, knelt beside the dog. His blue raincoat glistened with water, the hood pulled tight against the chill, his jeans soaked through as the wet earth clung to his knees. The shepherd, whom Noah would later name Storm, lay before him, his hind legs limp and dragging, claws scraping feebly against the ground, his black and tan fur matted with mud and streaked with blood from a gash on his side that glistened, red under the rain's relentless wash. Noah's heart thudded in his chest, a rapid beat that drowned out the rain's steady patter for a moment, his hands trembling as they hovered over Storm's muzzle. The dog's brown eyes, clouded with pain, met his, a silent plea cutting through the storm's roar, his shallow breaths punctuated by faint whimpers that pierced the boy's resolve. In his raincoat pocket, the crumpled note, "Injured dog, on trail, help," crinkled with each movement, a desperate plan stalled by the growing danger. The firs loomed taller, their whispers lost to the wind, the mist thickening into a shroud that obscured the trail, heightening the isolation. His glasses fogged with rain and breath streaking with droplets, but he saw Storm struggle, each scrape a fight, each whimper a call he couldn't ignore. He thought of his dad, whose hawk had once guided him through a tempest, and felt a surge of determination, but the peril loomed closer with every passing second. Footsteps squelched through the mud, sharp and urgent, shattering the park's wild hum. Noah's head snapped up, his breath catching as a park ranger emerged from the mist, his green uniform darkened by rain, the badge on his chest glinting wetly under a flashlight's beam. His boots sank deep into the soil, leaving dark prints, and he carried a net slung over his shoulder, its weight a silent menace that swayed with his stride. His radio crackled at his hip, a low static that mingled with the storm, and his face hardened as Storm's whimper turned into a weak growl. Raw, stressed sound that echoed against the fallen log nearby. "Kid, step back," the ranger barked, his voice cutting through the rain's roar, sharp enough to make Noah flinch. "That's a hazard. Could be rabid or injured bad. Move." His tone brooked no argument, his hand resting on the net as he stepped closer, the scent of wet canvas trailing him. Noah froze, his knees sinking deeper into the mud, the cold seeping through his skin like a warning. Storm's growl faded into a pained whine, his body trembling, his distress palpable as the rain washed more blood into the dirt, pooling slightly despite the downpour's dilution. "I can't," Noah stammered, his voice cracking as he scrambled, to his feet, the mud sucking at his sneakers with a wet squelch. "He's hurt. Someone left him and he needs help." His words tumbled out in a rush, a blend of fear and defiance, his dark eyes pleading through the rain-streaked lenses of his glasses. The ranger frowned, his gaze shifting to Storm, who whimpered again, his paw twitching weakly as if reaching for Noah. The park's usual solitude, rain, wind, firs, shattered with the rumble of an animal control van, its tires grinding to a halt on the wet gravel nearby, its siren a low wail that pierced the mist and sent a jolt through Noah's chest. Noah's stomach churned, his mind racing as the ranger muttered into his radio, "Injured stray on trail. Send the team." The words hit like a physical blow, his vision blurring with tears that mixed with the rain on his cheeks. Animal control? What if they deemed Storm too injured, too wild, and put him down? The van's doors slammed open, two officers stepping out with leashes and a metal cage, their boots crunching ominously against the soaked path. The air grew heavier, the creek's trickle lost beneath the machinery's growl, its presence a stark reminder of Seattle's wild soul now overshadowed by human haste. The officers' faces were stern, their movements efficient, the cage glinting under the flashlight's beam, a symbol of potential captivity or worse. The ranger stepped closer, his net raised, the mesh catching the rain as he prepared to encircle Storm. Noah moved instinctively, his small frame a barrier between the ranger and the dog, his hands outstretched. "No, please," he pleaded, his voice rising, cracking with desperation. "He's not dangerous, he's scared, look at the blood." His hands shook, but he held his ground, the note crumpling in his fist, a testament to his resolve. Storm's whine softened, his strength waning, but his eyes never left Noah's, a bond forming under pressure, a peril that threatened to tear them apart. The officers paused, their cage idle, watching the scene unfold with cautious interest. The ranger hesitated, his radio static a low hum, his expression softening as Noah's tears fell freely. The storm raged on, lightning flashing, to illuminate the firs, their branches bending as if bowing to the boy's courage. The air was thick with the scent of pine sap, wet fur and the metallic edge of blood, grounding Noah as his heart pounded. He thought of his dad again, of the hawk's cry that had rallied the neighborhood during a flood, and felt that same spirit urging him to protect Storm. The tension coiled tighter as the van's rumble grew, the park's peace slipping away, the threat of loss looming large in the late afternoon gloom. The ranger lowered the net slightly, his brow furrowing, as he studied Noah's determination. "Kid, you don't understand," he began, but a crack of thunder cut him off, the sound reverberating through the trees. Storm flinched, his whimper rising, and Noah dropped to his knees again, his hands brushing the dog's fur despite the ranger's warning. "I do understand," Noah said, his voice quieter but firm. "He's like my hawk was, someone needs to fight for him." The officers exchanged a glance, their leashes dangling, the cage door unopened. The ranger scratched his neck, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead, his initial sternness wavering under Noah's plea. The storm's intensity seemed to mirror the boy's resolve, the firs swaying violently, their whisper a call to action from the Seattle landscape he loved. He couldn't run for help now, not with the ranger so close, not with Storm's life hanging by a thread. The peril was real, the threat of separation a knife's edge, setting the stage for a shift no one could yet foresee as the afternoon darkened into evening. The late afternoon rain eased to a drizzle over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, its gentle drops glistening on the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13th, 2025, at 05:16 p.m. PKT, the air cooling with the storm's retreat, filled with the sharp scent of pine needles and the rich aroma of wet earth rising from the trail. The sky, still heavy with gray clouds, softened its earlier fury, the lightning fading to a distant rumble, casting a muted glow across the rugged landscape. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, stood his ground beside the injured German shepherd, whom he would later name Storm. His blue raincoat dripping with rainwater, his jeans soaked through as the mud clung to his knees. Storm's brown eyes, dulled by pain, met Noah's, his whimpers rising above the drizzle, his hind legs still limp, the gash on his side a raw wound now cleansed by the rain's gentle wash, the blood diluted into faint streaks. Noah's heart pounded, a steady rhythm that steadied his trembling hands, clenched into fists at his sides, the crumpled note, "Injured dog on trail, help," crinkling in his raincoat pocket, his tears mixed with the rain on his cheeks, his mind racing with the memory of his dad's hawk, whose sharp cries had once rallied the neighborhood during a storm. "Please." Noah's voice broke, high and shaky, cutting through the park's damp hush. "He's not bad. He's hurt bad, and he needs us." His words trembled but carried a weight beyond his years, his hands gesturing toward Storm's matted form, the gesture a plea that hung in the misty air. The ranger paused, his net lowering slightly, his brow furrowing as he studied the shepherd. Storm's growl had silenced, replaced by a weak wag of his tail, a response to Noah's voice that hinted at trust, his pain momentarily eased by the boy's presence. A sudden deep croak pierced the drizzle. A raven landed on a fir branch, above its black feathers ruffled by the wind. Its call a startling ally in this wild wilderness. The bird's cry, resonant and wild, softened the tension, its presence a nod to Seattle's reputation for its natural sentinels, where forest and city intertwined. Storm's tail wagged again, a faint but deliberate motion, his brown eyes flickering, with a spark of hope as the raven's croak echoed. "See?" Noah pressed, his voice steadier now, pointing at the raven with a muddy finger. Even he knows the dog isn't dangerous, he's just scared. His hand shook, but he held his ground, the note a silent testament to his resolve. The raven croaked again, its wings flexing, a wild companion echoing Seattle's rugged rhythm. The ranger's expression softened, his radio falling silent. As he stepped back, his initial sternness wavering under the boy's plea and the bird's unexpected intervention. The animal control officers, still unloading their cage, paused their movements, their curiosity piqued by the scene. The metal, glinting dully in the fading light. "All right, kid," the ranger muttered, rubbing his neck, his tone grudging as he lowered the net fully to the ground. "I'll call a vet instead of animal control, but you stay back, don't want you hurt." His words carried a shift, a crack in the wall of his earlier stance. The threat of removal paused as he reached for his radio again. The officers exchanged glances, their leashes dangling, the cage door unopened, their earlier efficiency replaced by a reluctant pause. The air grew lighter, the creek's trickle a faint lifeline beyond the firs, its presence a reminder of the city's wild soul now touched by compassion. Noah's chest loosened, relief flooding him as he sat cross-legged, the mud squelching, under him with a soft plop. He pulled a granola bar from his pocket, a snack meant for the park squirrels, and broke off a piece, holding it out with a trembling hand. Storm's nose twitched, his tongue darting to lick it feebly, a small act of acceptance that warmed Noah's heart and slowed his racing pulse. The raven croaked again, its tail flicking, a bridge between the boy and the dog, its black form, a stark contrast against the gray sky. Noah's tears slowed, his fear giving way to hope, his mind replaying his dad's stories of the hawk's rescues, a legacy fueling his resolve. The officers stepped back, their cage idle, the van's engine cutting off as they waited, their stern faces softening with the scene's shift. The ranger scratched his head, setting the net aside for good, his radio crackling as he spoke into it. "Cancel animal control. Request vet assistance on trail." His voice carried a grudging respect, the park's peace fragile but returning, as the storm's edge receded. The firs swayed, their branches whispering in the breeze, a sound that felt like approval from the Seattle landscape Noah loved. Noah whispered to Storm, "You're gonna be okay." His voice a promise, the raven's call a sign that help might come. The drizzle persisted, the raindrops tapping leaves with a gentle rhythm, the mist curling around the firs like a protective veil. Noah's glasses fogged slightly, but he saw the ranger's change, his posture less rigid, his eyes lingering on Storm with a hint of concern. The officers murmured among themselves, their cage now a distant threat, the van's presence fading into the background. The air was thick with the scent of pine sap, wet fur, and the faint metallic edge of Storm's wound, a sensory tapestry that grounded Noah as his heart steadied. He thought of his dad again, of the hawk's gentle guidance through rain-soaked nights, and felt that spirit in his stand, in the raven's timely croak. The creek's trickle grew louder in Noah's ears, a lifeline beyond the trees, tying this moment to the city's soul. The raven hopped along the branch, its croak a steady thread, its black eyes watching as if guiding the scene toward safety. Storm's breathing steadied, his whimpers fading into soft pants, his trust in Noah growing with each wag of his tail. The ranger finished his call, nodding toward Noah. "Vet's on the way. You did good, kid, don't move him." His words were gruff but carried a warmth, a shift from threat to support that bolstered Noah's hope. Noah sat back, the mud cool against his legs, his hand resting near Storm but not touching, respecting the ranger's caution. The park's wildness, rain, wind, firs, seemed to settle, the storm's retreat mirroring the easing tension. The sea. Officers retreated to the van, Their cage stowed, the siren silent, leaving the trail to Noah, Storm, and the Raven. The boy's mind flashed to the morning's peril, the ranger's net, the officer's arrival, and felt a pride in this shift, a moment where his plea had turned the tide. The firs stood tall, their whisper a hymn to the Seattle wilds, the Raven a silent ally in this fragile peace. The scene held, the drizzle a distant heartbeat, the firs a cathedral of green, framing a boy's courage. Noah's tears dried, his resolve firm, the note in his pocket a relic of his fight. Storm's eyes locked with his, a trust forming that would ripple outward, setting the stage for a rescue no one could yet imagine. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this plea marked a turning point, a hope born from a child's heart and a dog's silent plea, guided by the wild's unexpected grace. The late afternoon drizzle lifted over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, its last drops clinging to the Douglas firs, sparkling like jewels in the fading gray light on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:18 p.m. PKT. The air turned crisp, filled with the sharp scent of pine needles and the damp earth of the trail, the storm's earlier fury giving way to a gentle hush as the mist parted, revealing the park's rugged beauty. The sound of raindrops faded to a soft drip from the leaves, the creek's gentle trickle a distant heartbeat beyond the trees. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, sat cross-legged beside the log where Storm had been found, his blue raincoat sodden, his jeans caked with mud as he watched the ranger's shift unfold. The German shepherd, whom Noah would name Storm, pressed his head toward Noah, his brown eyes weary but trusting, his whimpers softening under the boy's presence. His hind legs still limp, the gash on his side a raw wound now cleaned by the rain. The Raven, its black feathers sleek, perched nearby, its croak a steady rhythm against the park's quiet. Noah's heart, which had raced with fear moments ago, began to steady, his tears from earlier drying into streaks on his rain-streaked face as hope took root. The crumpled note in his raincoat pocket, "Injured dog on trail, help," felt like a relic of a battle half won. Storm's tail gave a faint wag, a response to Noah's voice that echoed studies of canines calming under human care, his pain eased by the boy's steady presence. The animal control officers and ranger had retreated slightly, their earlier tension replaced by a reluctant pause, the van's engine long since cut off. The park, once a site of peril, now glowed with a fragile peace, the firs rustle a lullaby to the day's drama. Noah thought of his dad, of the hawk, whose gentle guidance had once walked him home through storms, and felt that legacy guiding him now. The sound of crunching gravel broke the silence as a white van marked Seattle Veterinary Clinic rolled up, its tires grinding to a stop on the wet path. Two vets stepped out, their green coats damp but crisp, carrying a medical kit and a stretcher. Vet 1, a woman with kind eyes and a stethoscope around her neck, approached Noah, her boots squelching in the mud. Vet 2, a man with a gentle demeanor and a pair of gloves in hand, surveyed Storm closely, his expression serious but not unkind. The Raven croaked softly, its call amplifying the moment's hope, its black form a stark contrast against the graying sky. "Hey, you must be the one who found him," Vet 1 said, her voice warm but firm as she knelt beside Noah. "What happened? Here?" Noah scrambled to his feet, his sneakers slipping slightly in the mud, and pointed at Storm. "He's hurt. I found him dragging himself, and there's blood. The ranger wanted to take him, but he's not bad." His words tumbled out, a rush of relief and urgency, his dark eyes pleading through fogged glasses. The ranger lingered nearby, his net abandoned, watching with a grudging nod as the vets took charge. Vet 2 knelt beside the log, examining Storm's gash and the limp legs beneath. The shepherd's tail wagged again, a feeble but eager motion, a sign of trust in the vet's calm presence. Vet 2 nodded, pulling out a bandage from the kit. "He's got a deep cut and possible spinal injury. We'll need to stabilize him carefully. Can you step back a bit?" Noah's chest loosened, a wave of gratitude washing over him as he stepped aside, holding the granola bar wrapper he'd kept from earlier. "Can he have some water?" he asked, his voice softer now. the fear giving way to a quiet determination. Vet 1 smiled, taking a bottle from her kit and tilting it so Storm could lap at the water, his tongue darting weakly but eagerly. The raven croaked again, hopping closer, its tail flicking like a conductor's baton, guiding the scene toward safety. The ranger scratched his head, his posture relaxed as he observed the vet's work. The rustle of bandages and the click of the stretcher echoed through the park, a tentative rhythm that replaced the earlier chaos of van doors and radio static. Blood and mud flakes fell, catching the damp light, the scent of pine sap mingling with the metallic tang of Storm's wound. Noah sat back down, the mud soaking through his jeans, his eyes fixed on the dog. Storm's breathing steadied, his whimpers fading as the vets applied pressure to the wound, their movements precise, guided by the raven's quiet presence. Vet 1 glanced at Noah, her medical kit resting on her knee. "You did the right thing, kid. Strays like this get hurt more than you'd think. What's his name?" "Storm," Noah said without hesitation, the name feeling right as it left his lips. He thought of the rain, how its flow had guided him, and felt a similar connection forming. The raven croaked again as if approving, its black feathers reflecting the fading light. Vet 2 chuckled softly, the sound breaking the tension further. "Looks like he's got a fan club already." The rescue was slow, the wound stubborn, but the shift was palpable. The officers muttered among themselves, their earlier hostility softening into curiosity as they stowed their gear. The ranger joined the vets, his hands helping to clear debris from around Storm, a community effort sparked by a boy's courage. The air grew lighter, the creek's trickle a faint lifeline beyond the firs, its presence a reminder of the city's wild soul now touched by compassion. Noah reached out, his fingers brushing Storm's paw, the contact sending a shiver of warmth through him. Storm's eyes met his again, a spark of trust growing stronger, his tail wagging more steadily now. The afternoon deepened, the golden sky softening the scene. The firs whisper a hymn to the Seattle wilds that seemed to bless this effort. The vets worked methodically, their tools a bridge between danger and safety, the raven a silent guide. Noah stayed, his small frame a constant beside Storm, the ranger's shift from threat to support a testament to the boy's plea. The officers retreated to the van, their cage forgotten, the park's peace returning as the drizzle ceased. Noah's mind replayed the morning, Storm's scrapes, the ranger's threats, his own tears, and felt a pride he hadn't known before. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was Storm's advocate, a role that fit like the raincoat he wore. The creek's hum drifted faintly, a lifeline beyond the trees, the afternoon light casting long shadows across the trail. The vets secured the stretcher, preparing to move. Storm, their movements careful to avoid jostling his injury. The raven croaked once more, its call a soothing counterpoint, then leapt into the firs, its black form vanishing into the branches, a guardian returning to the wild. Vet 2 nodded to Noah. "We'll take him to the clinic. You can visit tomorrow if his condition holds." Noah's tears returned, not of fear but of joy, as he watched the vets lift Storm onto the stretcher. The dog's head turned toward him, his brown eyes reflecting the trust they'd built, his tail giving a final wag. The ranger patted Noah's shoulder, a rare gesture of approval. "You started this, kid. Good work." The park glowed with nature's grace, the firs standing tall, the community effort a ripple from Noah's stand. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this rescue marked a turning point, a hope that would draw others into a story of compassion, setting the stage for a miracle yet to come. The late afternoon sun broke through the clouds over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, casting a golden glow across the Douglas firs. On this Friday, June 13th, 2025, at 05:20 p.m. PKT, the air turned crisp, filled with the sharp scent of pine, sap and the damp earth of the trail, the storm's earlier rage giving way to a serene hush as the mist lifted, revealing the park's rugged beauty in the fading light. The sound of dripping leaves faded, the creek's gentle trickle a soft heartbeat beyond the trees, harmonizing with the rustle of fir branches. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, knelt beside the log where Storm had been found, his blue raincoat drying in patches, his jeans caked with mud as he watched the vets work with bated breath. The German shepherd, whom Noah had named Storm, pressed his head toward him, his black and tan fur matted but cleaned of blood, his brown eyes fixed with a trust that had grown through the afternoon's trials. The vets, Vet 1 with her stethoscope, now around her neck, and Vet 2 adjusting the stretcher, moved with careful precision, the click of the bandage roll a rhythmic heartbeat against the park's stillness. The ranger and animal control officers had retreated, their earlier tension replaced by a grudging respect, the van's engine long since cut off. The park, once a site of peril, now glowed with a fragile peace, the fur's rustle a lullaby to the day's drama. Noah's chest tightened with anticipation, his tears from earlier dried into streaks on his rain-streaked face, his mind replaying the morning, Storm's scrapes, the ranger's threats, his own plea, and felt a pride he hadn't known before. The raven, its black feathers gleaming, perched on a low branch, its croak a steady thread in the tense vigil, a wild sentinel watching over the scene. Vet 2 secured the final bandage, a soft snap echoing as the wound was covered, and Storm's body shifted, his hind legs still limp but his upper body freed. The dog didn't bolt, didn't snap. His movements were slow, deliberate, as if testing his newfound stability. Noah held his breath, his hands trembling as Storm turned his head fully toward him. The vets stepped back, their tools lowering, awe in their expressions as the moment stretched, thick with possibility. The raven croaked softly, hopping closer, its tail flicking like a conductor's baton, guiding the scene to its climax. The air was thick with the scent of pine, wet fur, and the faint antiseptic tang from the vet's kit, grounding Noah as his heart raced. Storm's brown eyes locked with Noah's, a gaze so deep it felt like a window into the dog's soul. The boy's heart stuttered, a warmth spreading through him as Storm's tail gave a tentative wag, then a stronger one, his strength returning with each breath. The dog shifted, his front paws pressing into the mud, and leaned forward, his tongue darting out to lick Noah's hand, a trust response that mirrored studies of canines bonding with rescuers post-trauma. But to Noah it was more a miracle, a recognition that transcended instinct. Tears welled in his eyes, spilling over as he whispered, "You're safe. Because of us." The contact sent a shiver through him, the warmth of Storm's tongue a seal on their bond, a moment that felt ordained by the wild around them. The vets exchanged a glance, Vet 1's voice breaking the silence. "He's waiting for you, kid." Her words carried a reverence, the raven's croak amplifying the moment's sanctity. Noah reached out, his fingers sinking into Storm's clean fur, feeling the warmth beneath the dampness, the steady beat of the dog's heart. Storm pressed, closer, his body trembling but upright, his eyes never leaving Noah's. A mutual acknowledgement, a bond sealed in the sun and mud. The officers murmured from a distance, the ranger nodding slowly, their earlier threat forgotten in the face of this quiet triumph. The creek's trickle grew louder, a lifeline beyond the firs tying this miracle to Seattle's soul. The scene glowed with the city's natural magic, the firs standing tall, their golden tips catching the light, the raven a mythic sentinel on the branch. Noah's mind flashed to his dad, to the hawk, whose sharp cries had anchored him after the funeral. This felt like that, a legacy reborn, a connection that healed the boy's lingering grief. Storm's lick had been a gift. "Thank you," a promise, and Noah felt it in his bones. The dog's tail wagged fully now, his strength returning, his presence a living testament to the power of care. The air softened, the scent of pine mingling with the earthy musk of the trail, a sensory embrace that deepened the moment. The vets moved forward with a blanket, but Storm stayed by Noah, his paws steady in the mud, the raven croaking as if blessing the union. Vet 2 chuckled, lowering the blanket. "Looks like he's chosen his person." The ranger joined, his hands helping to clear debris, a community effort sparked by a boy's courage. The afternoon deepened, the golden sky softening the scene, The firs whisper a hymn to the wild heart of Seattle that had witnessed this miracle. Noah's tears fell freely, mixing with the mud on his face, his heart swelling with a joy he couldn't name. Storm leaned into him, his weight a comfort, his eyes a mirror of the trust Noah had given. The raven leapt into the firs, its croak a final note in this symphony of liberation, its black form vanishing into the branches. The park-goers who had gathered, alerted by the ranger's earlier call, watched from a distance, their murmurs a warm hum of approval. Vet 1 knelt beside Noah, her voice gentle. "We'll take him to the clinic now, but this is your doing, Noah. He's alive because of you." The ranger added, "Never seen a kid stick up like that, you've got guts." Their words wrapped around him, a community's recognition of his stand. Noah's mind replayed the day, Storm's struggle, the ranger's net, the raven's intervention, this liberation, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk whose freedom had taught him resilience. Storm's lick lingered on his hand, a tactile memory that anchored him, the dog's trust a beacon in the golden light. The creek's hum drifted, a constant beyond the trees, the firs a green cathedral framing their sanctuary. The vets prepared to move Storm, their stretcher a bridge to safety, but the moment held, boy and dog, united by compassion, their bond a miracle that would ripple through the park. The afternoon stretched, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows across the trail. The raven's absence was felt, but its role lingered, a mythic thread in this tale. Noah stood, Storm at his side for a moment longer, the dog's tail wagging as the vets approached. The park glowed with nature's grace, the mist lifting fully, the community's presence a quiet witness. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this liberation marked a meeting of spirits, a miracle that left tears of awe in its wake, setting the stage for a journey yet to unfold. The late afternoon sun dipped lower over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, casting long golden rays through the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:21 p.m. PKT. The air grew cool, infused with the sharp scent of pine sap and the damp earth of the trail, the storm's aftermath leaving a fresh, clean aroma that mingled with the faint antiseptic tang from the vet's kit. The mist had fully lifted, revealing the park's rugged beauty in the soft evening light, the creek's gentle trickle a steady heartbeat beyond the trees, its sound a soothing counterpoint to the rustle of fir branches. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, stood beside the vet's stretcher where Storm rested, his blue raincoat drying in the breeze, his jeans caked with mud as a badge of his day's journey. The German shepherd, now firmly named Storm, lay with his head resting on the stretcher's edge, his black and tan fur cleaned and bandaged, his brown eyes fixed on Noah with a trust that had deepened into loyalty. The vets, their green coats, speckled with mud, prepared to load Storm into the van, their movements gentle as they adjusted the stretcher's straps. Vet 1, her stethoscope dangling, offered Noah a warm smile, while Vet 2 checked the bandages with a nod of approval. The ranger lingered nearby, his net long abandoned, his expression softened with respect, the animal control officers having retreated to their van, their earlier threat a distant memory. The park, once a battleground of peril, now hummed with a peaceful resolution. The firs rustle a gentle hymn to the day's transformation. Noah's heart swelled, his tears from earlier replaced by a quiet joy, his mind replaying the morning, Storm's struggle, the raven's call, that miraculous lick, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose freedom had shaped his resilience. The cue, raven, its black feathers gleaming in the fading light, gave one final croak from a high branch before lifting into the sky, its wings cutting a graceful arc against the golden horizon, a wild guardian departing after its role was fulfilled. Parkgoers who had gathered earlier whispered among themselves, their murmurs a warm hum of admiration, some snapping photos with phones that glinted in the sunlight. Noah reached out, his hand resting lightly on Storm's head, feeling the warmth of his fur, the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Storm's tail gave a weak but determined wag, his eyes never leaving Noah's. A bond sealed by compassion and cemented by the day's trials. Vet 1 approached, her voice gentle as she knelt beside Noah. "He's stable, now thanks to you. We'll take him to the clinic for surgery on his spine and further care. You can visit tomorrow, bring your parents, okay?" Her words carried a promise, the vet's tools a bridge to Storm's recovery. Noah nodded, his throat tight with emotion, the granola bar wrapper he'd kept crinkling in his pocket, a memento of their first connection. Vet 2 added, "He's got a fighter's spirit. With rest, he might walk again." The possibility lit a spark in Noah's chest, a hope that mirrored the golden light bathing the park. The ranger stepped forward, his boots crunching on the gravel path, and patted Noah's shoulder. "You did more than most adults would, kid. This dog's lucky you were here." His gruff tone held a rare warmth, a community's recognition of Noah's stand. The officers waved from their van, their cage stowed, the siren silent, their earlier sternness replaced by a quiet respect. The creek's trickle grew louder in Noah's ears, a lifeline beyond the firs, tying this resolution to Seattle's wild soul. The firs stood tall, their golden tips catching the light. A natural cathedral framing the scene as the afternoon deepened into evening. Noah's mind drifted to his dad, to the hawk's sharp cries that had guided him home after storms, a legacy that now lived in Storm's rescue. The dog's lick lingered on his hand, a tactile memory that anchored him, the trust in those brown eyes a mirror of his own resolve. He thought of the morning's peril, the ranger's net, the officer's arrival, his own tears, and felt a pride that had grown with each step. Storm's presence beside him, even on the stretcher, felt like a new beginning, a family formed in the wild heart of Seattle. The air softened, the scent of pine mingling with the earthy musk of the trail, a sensory embrace that deepened his connection to this place. The vets lifted the stretcher, Storm's body shifting slightly, his head turning to keep Noah in sight. The boy followed, his sneakers squelching in the mud, his small frame a constant beside the dog. The park-goers parted, their murmurs a chorus of encouragement, some clapping softly as the van doors opened. The raven's absence was felt, but its role lingered, a mythic thread in this tale of liberation. Vet 1 handed Noah a card with the clinic's address, her smile reassuring. "Come by tomorrow at 10. We'll update you on his progress." Noah clutched the card, his fingers trembling with anticipation, the promise of tomorrow, a beacon in the golden light. The afternoon stretched, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows across the trail as the vet secured Storm in the van. The dog's tail gave one final wag, his eyes locked with Noah's until the doors closed, a silent vow between them. The ranger nodded again, turning to join the fading crowd, his presence a quiet witness to the day's miracle. The creek's hum drifted, a constant beyond the trees, the firs a green frame for this resolution. Noah stood alone for a moment, the mud cooling against his legs, his raincoat rustling in the breeze, the note in his pocket a relic of his fight. He turned toward home, the park's peace settling around him like a blanket, the golden light, a promise of dawn. His mind filled with images of Storm, dragging himself, wagging his tail, licking his hand, and felt a future taking shape. The community's warmth, the vet's care, the ranger's respect, all had woven a tapestry of hope around him. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this day marked a new chapter, a bond that would grow stronger with each visit to the clinic, a story of compassion that left tears of awe and joy in its wake. As the van pulled away, its taillights glowing red against the green, Noah whispered, "See you tomorrow, Storm." The firs rustled, the creek sang, and the park held its breath, waiting for the dawn of their new day together. The late afternoon sun dipped below the horizon over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, painting the Douglas firs with a warm amber glow on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:23 p.m. PKT. The air carried a crisp edge, laced with the sharp scent of pine sap and the lingering dampness of the trail, the storm's aftermath now a memory as the evening breeze rustled the leaves. The mist had vanished, leaving the park's rugged beauty bathed in the soft twilight. The creek's gentle trickle a distant lullaby beyond the trees, its sound mingling with the occasional call of a distant owl. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby, for his quiet kindness, stood at the park's edge, his blue raincoat folded over his arm, his jeans still caked with dried mud from the day's adventure. In his pocket, the crumpled note, "Injured dog on trail, help," and the vet's card rested as relics of a transformative day. His thoughts drifted to Storm, the German shepherd whose black and tan fur and trusting brown eyes had changed his life, now safe at the Seattle Veterinary Clinic awaiting surgery. The park, once a stage for peril and rescue, now hummed with a serene energy, the firs standing tall like sentinels of the day's miracle. The raven, its role complete, had vanished into the wild, but its croak lingered in Noah's memory, a mythic thread woven into the story. Park-goers had dispersed, their murmurs of awe fading into the evening, though a few lingered, glancing at Noah with smiles and nods of recognition. The ranger's van had pulled away, the animal control officers gone, their earlier tension replaced by a quiet respect that had rippled through the community. Noah's heart felt full, his earlier tears of fear and joy now a steady warmth. His mind replaying the morning Storm's struggle, the lick that sealed their bond, the vet's promise of tomorrow, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose freedom had taught him courage. At the clinic, Storm rested under the vet's care, his spinal injury assessed, his fighter's spirit noted in their logs. Vet 1 had called Noah's mom earlier, her voice warm over the phone, explaining the surgery planned for the next day and inviting the family to visit at 10. The possibility of Storm walking again fueled Noah's hope, a spark that mirrored the amber light fading into dusk. He thought of the granola bar he'd shared, the wagging tail, the trust in those eyes, and felt a family forming, one born in mud and rain, strengthened by compassion. The air softened, the scent of pine blending with the earthy musk of the trail, a sensory tapestry that anchored him to this place. Noah turned toward home, the park's peace wrapping around him like a cloak, the golden light a promise of renewal. His sneakers crunched on the gravel path, each step a rhythm of the day's journey. Peril, plea, rescue, liberation, and now this resolution. He imagined Storm at the clinic, surrounded by the hum of medical equipment, the vet's gentle hands, and felt a pang of longing mixed with pride. The community's warmth had grown since the rescue. Neighbors had stopped by his house that afternoon, offering blankets and food for the dog, their stories of lost pets intertwining with his own. The ranger had even left a message with his mom, praising Noah's guts, a rare nod that deepened the boy's sense of belonging. The creek's trickle faded as he reached the park's boundary, the fir's silhouette against the twilight sky, a reminder of Seattle's wild heart. Noah's mind filled with the future, visits to the clinic, walks with Storm if he healed, a partnership that would echo his dad's bond with the hawk. He thought of the park-goers' photos, already circulating on social media, their captions praising a boy's bravery, a story that might inspire others. The vets had hinted at a fundraiser for stray animals, sparked by Storm's rescue, a ripple effect from Noah's stand. The evening deepened, the amber fading to purple, the air cooling against his skin, the scent of pine giving way to the urban hum of the city beyond. At home, Noah's mom waited on the porch, her arms open as he approached. "You did something amazing today," she said, her voice thick with emotion, her eyes reflecting the pride he felt. His younger sister peeked out, clutching a stuffed dog, asking, "Will Storm come home soon?" Noah nodded, the vet's card crinkling in his pocket as he pulled it out to show them. The family gathered inside, the warmth of the living room a contrast to the park's wildness, their chatter filling the space with plans for tomorrow. His dad's old photo, holding the hawk, hung on the wall, a silent witness to the legacy Noah now carried. The night settled, the city lights twinkling through the window, the creek's echo a memory in Noah's ears. He sat by the table sketching Storm's face from memory, the brown eyes, the wagging tail, the lick that had changed everything. The community's support, the vet's care, the ranger's respect, all had woven a tapestry of hope around him, a network that would sustain Storm's recovery. He thought of the surgery, the uncertainty, but also the strength he'd seen in Storm, a resilience that mirrored his own. The air inside carried the scent of dinner, roast chicken and herbs, a homecoming that grounded him after the day's wild ride. The next day loomed, a dawn of visits and possibilities, the clinic's address a beacon in his mind. Noah imagined Storm waking, his tail wagging, his legs testing the ground, a miracle unfolding step by step. The park's story would live on, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to the sketch, "We'll do this together, Storm." The words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this journey forward marked a new chapter, a bond that would grow with each sunrise, a legacy of compassion that would endure. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the park held its breath, awaiting the dawn of Noah and Storm's shared future. The late afternoon transitioned into early evening over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, the sky deepening to a rich indigo as the last golden rays faded from the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:24 p.m. PKT. The air grew cool, carrying the sharp scent of pine sap and the earthy dampness of the trail. The Moine, Storm's remnants now a distant memory as a gentle breeze stirred the leaves. The mist had long dissipated, revealing the park's rugged contours under the twilight glow. The creek's soft trickle a steady pulse beyond the trees, harmonizing with the faint hum of crickets awakening. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, lingered near the park's entrance, his blue raincoat draped over his shoulder, his jeans still bearing the day's mud as a testament to his courage. In his pocket, the crumpled note, "Injured dog on trail, help," and the vet's card rested, symbols of a day that had reshaped his world. His thoughts turned to Storm, the German shepherd whose rescue had ignited a spark, now under the vet's care at the Seattle Veterinary Clinic. The park, once a crucible of peril and rescue, now pulsed with a communal warmth, the firs standing tall as silent witnesses to the day's events. The raven's departure earlier had left a quiet reverence, its croak a lingering echo in Noah's mind, a wild thread in the tapestry of this tale. The last of the park-goers had thinned out, their murmurs of admiration replaced by the evening's stillness, though a few stragglers cast appreciative glances his way. The ranger's van was a distant speck on the road, the animal control officers gone, their earlier tension dissolved into a respect that had spread through Seattle like wildfire. Noah's heart beat with a steady pride, his earlier tears of fear and joy now a warm resolve, his mind replaying the morning, Storm's struggle, the lick that sealed their bond, the community's growing embrace, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose legacy of resilience now lived in him. Word of Noah's bravery had spread quickly. Social media posts from park-goers, photos of the rescue, captions praising a boy's heart, had gone viral within hours, drawing attention from local news outlets. A reporter from Como News had approached him earlier, her microphone catching. His shy recounting of finding Storm, the ranger's initial resistance, and the vet's arrival. The story had ignited a wave of support. Neighbors had dropped off donations at his house, a local animal shelter had called to offer assistance, and the vets had hinted at a community fundraiser to aid strays, all sparked by Noah's stand. The air softened, the scent of pine blending with the faint aroma of grilled food wafting from nearby homes, a sensory bridge between the wild park and the urban heart of Seattle. Noah turned toward the street, the park's peace giving way to the city's gentle hum, the twilight casting long shadows across the path. His sneakers scuffed the gravel, each step a rhythm of the day's journey, peril, plea, rescue, liberation, resolution, and now this aftermath. He imagined Storm at the clinic, surrounded by the soft beeps of monitors, the vet's careful hands, and felt a mix of longing and anticipation. The community's response had been overwhelming. His mom had shown him messages on her phone, offers of dog food, blankets, even a collar from a stranger moved by the story. The ranger had called again, leaving a voicemail with his mom, praising Noah's guts and promising to check on Storm's progress, a bond forming beyond the park. The creek's trickle faded as he neared home, the fir's silhouette against the indigo sky a reminder of Seattle's wild soul. Noah's mind filled with the future, tomorrow's visit to the clinic, the possibility of Storm walking again, a partnership that would echo his dad's bond with the hawk. He thought of the fundraiser, the shelter's involvement, the way this story might inspire others to act. The evening deepened, the purple sky dotted with the first stars, the air cooling against his skin, the scent of pine giving way to the urban blend of exhaust and blooming jasmine from a neighbor's garden. His sister's voice called from the porch, "Noah, come see," pulling him from his reverie. At home, his family waited, the porch light casting a warm glow. His mom hugged him tightly, her eyes bright with tears. "You're a hero, Noah," she said, her voice trembling with pride. His sister held up a drawing of Storm, crayons capturing the dog's wagging tail, and asked, "Will he like it?" Noah nodded, the vet's card crinkling as he pulled it out to show them the clinic's address. Inside, the living room buzzed with activity. Neighbors had brought a casserole, a basket of toys, and a petition to name a park trail after Storm, their stories of lost pets weaving a communal thread. His dad's photo, holding the hawk, seemed to smile down, a silent endorsement of Noah's path. The night settled, the city lights twinkling through the window, the creek's echo a faint memory in Noah's ears. He sat at the table, adding to his sketch of Storm, the brown eyes, the lick, the trust, each line a tribute to their bond. The community's embrace had grown tangible. Local businesses had pledged support, a vet tech had texted updates, and the shelter director had invited Noah to speak at an event. He thought of the surgery, the uncertainty, but also Storm's strength, a resilience that mirrored his own. The air inside carried the scent of casserole and warm bread, a homecoming that grounded him after the day's wild ride. The next day promised a dawn of action, visiting Storm, meeting the shelter team, joining the fundraiser planning. Noah imagined Storm waking, his tail wagging, his legs testing the ground, a miracle unfolding with community support. The park story would endure, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to the sketch, "We'll make it better for others, Storm." The words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this aftermath marked a legacy, a bond that would grow with each sunrise, a movement of compassion that would ripple outward. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the city held its breath, awaiting the dawn of Noah and Storm's enduring impact. The early evening settled over Discovery Park. In Seattle, Washington, the sky a deep indigo streaked with the last hints of amber as the sun vanished behind the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:25 p.m. PKT. The air grew cool and still, carrying the sharp scent of pine sap and the damp earth of the trail. The storm's echo now a faint memory as the night embraced the park. The mist had fully cleared, revealing the rugged landscape under a canopy of stars. The creek's gentle trickle a soft serenade beyond the trees, blending with the rustle of fir branches in the evening breeze. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, sat on his porch overlooking the park's distant silhouette. His blue raincoat hung up, his jeans cleaned of the day's mud but still carrying the memory of his adventure. In his lap, a sketchbook held his latest drawing of Storm, the German shepherd whose black and tan fur and trusting brown eyes had become his anchor, now recovering at the Seattle Veterinary Clinic after successful surgery. Glenn felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose freedom had guided him to this moment. At the clinic, Storm rested under the vet's watchful eyes, his bandages fresh, his fighter's spirit evident in the weak wags Vet 1 had reported. The surgery performed that afternoon had addressed the spinal damage, and the vets were optimistic, though recovery would be slow. Noah's mom had taken the call, her voice trembling with relief as she relayed the news, promising a visit the next morning at 10. The possibility of Storm walking again filled Noah with a quiet joy, a spark that mirrored the stars beginning to pierce the night sky. He thought of the granola bar, the wagging tail, the trust in those eyes, and felt a bond that had grown from mud and rain into a lasting partnership. The air inside carried the scent of his mom's chamomile tea, a soothing contrast to the park's wild aroma, grounding him as he sketched. Noah's porch overlooked the park, the distant firs a green shadow against the indigo, the creek's trickle a faint lifeline tying him to the day's events. His sneakers, cleaned and set aside, bore the faintest trace of mud, each scuff a rhythm of the journey: peril, plea, rescue, liberation, resolution, aftermath, and now this closure. He imagined Storm at the clinic, surrounded by the soft hum of machines, the vet's gentle care, and felt a mix of pride and anticipation for tomorrow. The community's support had deepened. Neighbors had left a welcome mat for Storm. The shelter had scheduled a visit, and the fundraiser had raised funds overnight, all sparked by Noah's stand. The evening deepened, the stars brightening, the air cooling against his skin, the scent of pine giving way to the urban blend of night-blooming flowers from the garden. Inside, his family gathered, the living room aglow with soft lamplight. His mom handed him a mug of tea, her eyes reflecting the pride he felt. "You gave him a second chance, Noah," she said, her voice warm. His sister curled up with her stuffed dog, asking, "Will Storm sleep with me when he's home?" Noah smiled, the vet's card crinkling as he traced its edges, a promise of tomorrow. His dad's photo, holding the hawk, seemed to nod from the wall, a silent witness to the legacy Noah now carried. The room buzzed with plans, his mom organizing the clinic visit, his sister drawing more pictures, the community's gifts piling. In a corner, their stories of pets weaving a tapestry of connection. The night settled, the city lights twinkling through the window, the creek's echo a distant memory in Noah's ears. He added final touches to his sketch. Storm's eyes, the lick, the trust, each line a tribute to their healing bond. The community's embrace had solidified, local news had aired the story, businesses had pledged ongoing support, and the shelter director had invited Noah to lead a youth outreach, a movement born from his courage. He thought of the surgery's success, the slow recovery, but also Storm's strength, a resilience that mirrored his own. The air inside carried the scent of tea and the faint musk of the day's adventure, a homecoming that anchored him. The next day promised a dawn of reunion, visiting Storm, seeing his progress, celebrating with the community. Noah imagined Storm waking, his tail wagging, his legs trembling but moving, a miracle unfolding with each step. The park's story would live on, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to the sketch, "We're home now, Storm." The words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this closure marked a healed bond, a legacy that would grow with each sunrise, a story of compassion that would endure. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the city held its breath, awaiting the dawn of Noah and Storm's shared healing. The early evening deepened over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, the sky a velvet indigo pierced by a scattering of stars as the last amber traces vanished behind the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13th, 2025, at 05:26 p.m. PKT. The air turned crisp, carrying the sharp scent of pine sap and the cool dampness of the trail, the storm's memory now a whisper in the night as a gentle breeze stirred the leaves. The mist had long dissipated, unveiling the park's rugged beauty under the starlit canopy. The creek's soft trickle a distant melody beyond the trees, harmonizing with the rustle of fir branches and the occasional hoot of an owl. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, stood at his bedroom window overlooking the park's silhouette. His blue raincoat hung neatly in the closet, his jeans washed clean of the day's mud but etched in his memory. On his desk, a sketchbook lay open to his drawing of Storm, the German shepherd whose black and tan fur and trusting brown eyes had sparked a journey, now healing at the Seattle Veterinary Clinic after a successful surgery. The park, once a battleground of rescue and redemption, now rested in tranquil stillness, the firs standing as timeless sentinels of the day's legacy. The raven's croak, a wild thread in Noah's tale, had faded into the night, its departure marking the close of its role, leaving a profound silence that spoke of completion. The last park-goers had returned to their lives, their murmurs of awe replaced by the night's quiet, though the community's impact lingered in Noah's heart. The ranger's update that afternoon had confirmed Storm's surgery success, his spinal repair holding, with early signs of movement, a hope that had spread through the neighborhood like a warm current. The animal control officer's initial threat was a faded echo, their respect for Noah's bravery a catalyst that had transformed Seattle's spirit. His heart swelled with a deep satisfaction, his earlier tears of fear and joy now a reflective gratitude, his mind tracing the journey, peril, plea, rescue, liberation, resolution, aftermath, closure, and now this reflection, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose freedom had shaped his path to this legacy. At the clinic, Storm rested under the vet's care, his bandages snug, his weak wags a sign of his fighter's spirit rebounding. The surgery, completed hours ago, had mended the spinal damage, and Vet One's call to Noah's mom had been filled with cautious optimism. Recovery would be gradual, but Storm might walk again. Noah's family had celebrated quietly, his mom's voice trembling with pride as she shared the news, planning their 10 o'clock visit. The thought of Storm's healing filled Noah with a quiet awe, a spark that mirrored the stars above, each one a testament to their bond. He recalled the granola bar, the lick, the trust in those brown eyes, and felt a partnership that had grown from a rainy trail into a lifelong commitment. The air in his room carried the scent of his mom's lavender candle, a soothing contrast to the park's wild aroma, grounding him as he gazed at the sketch. Noah's window framed the park, the distant firs a dark green shadow against the indigo sky, the creek's trickle a faint lifeline tying him to the day's events. His sneakers, cleaned and tucked away, held the faintest memory of mud, each scuff a rhythm of the journey that had led here. He imagined Storm at the clinic, surrounded by the soft hum of monitors, the vet's gentle hands, and felt a mix of pride and anticipation for the morning. The community's support had blossomed. Neighbors had organized a Storm's Trail dedication. The shelter had launched a youth program with Noah as its face, and the fundraiser had raised thousands. All ignited by his stand, the evening deepened, the stars growing brighter, the air cooling against the glass, the scent of lavender blending with the faint urban hum of Seattle beyond. Inside, his family's voices drifted from the living room, a warm hum of planning and laughter. His mom called up, "Noah, come down, your sister's got a surprise." He descended, finding her holding a handmade Welcome Home Storm banner, her crayon still in hand. His mom hugged him, her eyes bright. "You've started something bigger than us," she said, her voice thick with emotion. His dad's photo, holding the hawk, seemed to gleam from the wall, a silent nod to the legacy Noah now carried. The room buzzed with gifts, dog beds, toys, a leash from the shelter, each a thread in the community's embrace, their stories of pets weaving, a shared history. The night settled, the city lights twinkling through the window, the creek's echo a distant memory in Noah's ears. He returned to his sketch, refining Storm's eyes, the lick, the trust, each stroke a tribute to their healing bond. The legacy had taken root. The news had dubbed him Seattle's young hero. Businesses had pledged ongoing support, and the shelter's outreach had inspired adoptions, a movement born from his courage. He thought of Storm's recovery, the slow steps, Ahead, but also his strength, a resilience that mirrored his own. The air inside carried the scent of lavender and the faint musk of the day, a homecoming that anchored him. The next day promised a dawn of reunion, visiting Storm, witnessing his first steps, celebrating with the community. Noah imagined Storm, waking, his tail wagging, his legs trembling but steadying, a miracle unfolding with each moment. The park's story would endure, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to the sketch, "Our legacy lives, Storm." The words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this reflection marked a lasting bond, a legacy that would grow with each sunrise, a story of compassion that would inspire generations. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the city held its breath, awaiting the dawn of Noah and Storm's enduring legacy. The early evening deepened over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, the sky a rich indigo dotted with emerging stars as the last amber glow faded behind the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 05:29 p.m. PKT. The air turned cool and serene, carrying the sharp scent of pine sap and the lingering dampness of the trail, the storm's memory now a distant whisper as a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The mist had vanished, revealing the park's rugged beauty under the twilight canopy, the creek's soft trickle a soothing rhythm beyond the trees, blending with the faint chirps of night insects. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, stood at the edge of the Seattle Veterinary Clinic's outdoor pen, his blue raincoat folded over his arm, his jeans freshly washed, but bearing the faint memory of mud from a week ago. In his hand he clutched the sketchbook with his drawing of Storm, the German shepherd whose black and tan fur and trusting brown eyes had become his world, now ready to take his first steps after a week of recovery following successful surgery. The Bite Park, visible in the distance, stood as a silent witness to their journey, the firs towering like guardians of the legacy born that rainy day. The raven's croak, a wild thread in their story, had faded into memory, its role complete, leaving a quiet anticipation in the air. The clinic buzzed with a different energy, vets, staff, and a small gathering of neighbors who had followed. Storm's recovery online, their murmurs of excitement a warm hum against the evening stillness. The ranger had called that morning, his gruff voice filled with pride, confirming Storm's progress and promising to attend. The animal control officer's initial threat was a faded echo, their respect for Noah's bravery now part of a community narrative. His heart raced with a mix of nerves and joy, his earlier tears of uncertainty now a hopeful gleam, his mind replaying the past week, Storm's surgery, the daily updates, the community's support, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose resilience had guided him to this reunion. Inside the pen, Storm rested on a soft mat, his bandages reduced to a single wrap around his midsection, his black and tan fur gleaming from the clinic's care. Vet 1, her stethoscope around her neck, knelt beside him, her kind eyes meeting Noah's. "He's ready, Noah," she said, her voice steady with optimism. "The surgery held and his strength's returning. Let's see if he can stand." Vet 2, adjusting a harness, nodded, his gentle demeanor a reassurance. The surgery, performed a week ago, had repaired Storm's spinal damage, and daily therapy had brought early signs of movement, wags growing stronger, legs twitching with intent. Noah's mom and sister stood nearby, his mom clutching tissues, his sister holding her "Welcome Home Storm" banner, the family united in this moment. Noah stepped forward, his sneakers crunching on the clinic's gravel, the sound a heartbeat of anticipation. He knelt beside Storm, the dog's brown eyes locking with his, a trust that had deepened over the week through phone calls and photos. "Hey, Storm," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion, offering a treat from his pocket, a small piece of chicken his mom had prepared. Storm's nose twitched, his tail giving a weak but eager wag, his front paws shifting as if testing the ground. The air was thick with the scent of pine drifting from the park, the clinic's antiseptic tang, and the warm musk of Storm's fur, grounding Noah as his heart pounded. Vet 1 guided the harness, her hand steady as she supported Storm's hindquarters. "Okay, Noah, call him," she instructed. Noah held the treat higher, his voice rising. "Come on, Storm, you can do it." The dog's ears perked, his eyes fixed on the prize, and with a trembling effort, his front legs pushed up, his hind legs wobbling but lifting. A collective gasp rose from the small crowd, neighbors, clinic staff, the ranger standing at the back, tears glistening in their eyes. Storm's legs shook, his balance unsteady, but he took a tentative step, then another, his tail wagging more firmly, his gaze never leaving Noah's. The creek's distant trickle seemed to cheer. The firs rustle, a soft applause from the park beyond. Tears streamed down Noah's face, mixing with a smile as he met Storm halfway, the dog's tongue darting out to lick his hand, a familiar seal of their bond, now renewed with movement. "You did it!" Noah cried, wrapping his arms around Storm's neck, feeling the warmth of his fur, the steady beat of his heart. Vet 2 chuckled, adjusting the harness. "Slow and steady, but he's on his way. Your bond's his strength." The ranger stepped forward, his boots crunching, and patted Noah's shoulder. "Kid, you've given him a life. Proud of you." The neighbors clapped, some wiping their eyes, the community's embrace palpable in the twilight. The evening deepened, the stars brightening overhead, the clinic pen aglow with portable lights set up for the occasion. Noah's mom hugged him, her tears falling freely. "He's home because of you," she said, her voice thick with love. His sister ran over, her banner fluttering, and patted Storm's head, giggling as he licked her too. The air softened, the scent of pine mingling with the clinic's clean aroma and the earthy musk of the pen, a sensory tapestry that deepened the moment. Noah thought of the past week, daily calls, community donations, the ranger's updates, and felt a pride that echoed his dad's hawk, whose freedom had taught him perseverance. The reunion stretched, the crowd thinning as the night settled, but the connection remained. Vet 1 handed Noah a leash, her smile warm. "Take him for a short walk tomorrow," supervised. "He'll need time, but he's yours." The ranger added, "Trail's getting a plaque. Storm's path, thanks to you." Noah nodded, the sketchbook trembling in his hand, the drawing, now a living image before him. Storm leaned into him, his legs steadying with each moment, his eyes a mirror of the trust they'd built. The creek's hum drifted faintly, a lifeline from the park, the firs a green frame for this new beginning. The next day loomed, a dawn of walks and healing, the clinic's guidance a beacon. Noah imagined Storm gaining strength, his tail wagging, his steps growing sure, a miracle unfolding with each day. The park's story would endure, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to Storm, "We'll keep going," the words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this reunion marked a healed bond, a legacy that would grow with each step, a story of compassion that would inspire forever. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the city held its breath, awaiting the dawn of Noah and Storm's first steps together. The early evening settled into a tranquil dusk over Discovery Park in Seattle, Washington, the sky a deep indigo adorned with a constellation of stars as the last amber hues melted away behind the Douglas firs on this Friday, June 13th, 2025, at 05:30 p.m. PKT. The air grew cool and calm, infused with the sharp scent of pine, sap, and the earthy dampness of the trail, the storm's legacy now a faint whisper in the night breeze. The mist had fully lifted, unveiling the park's rugged beauty under the starlit canopy. The creek's gentle trickle, a joyful cadence beyond. The trees, blending with the rustle of fir branches and the soft calls of nightbirds. Noah Ellis, nicknamed Baby for his quiet kindness, stood on the newly dubbed Storm's Path Trail, his blue raincoat tied around his waist, his jeans bearing the proud stains of a morning walk with Storm. Beside him, the German shepherd trotted steadily, his black and tan fur gleaming, his hind legs strengthened by weeks of therapy, his brown eyes reflecting a bond forged in resilience and love. The park, once the scene of a desperate rescue, now thrived with a festive spirit. The firs standing tall as sentinels of a legacy that had grown beyond that rainy day. The ravens' croak, a wild thread in their story, had faded into memory, its role complete, leaving a joyful silence filled with celebration. The trail buzzed with life. A community gathering organized by the shelter, complete with a ribbon-cutting ceremony for Storm's path, adorned with a plaque reading, "In honor of Noah and Storm's courage." Neighbors, vets, the ranger, and even the animal control officers who had once threatened Storm mingled, their laughter and chatter a warm hum against the evening stillness. Noah's heart swelled with a deep contentment, his earlier tears of struggle and reunion now a radiant happiness, his mind tracing the journey. Peril, plea, rescue, liberation, resolution, aftermath, closure, reflection, reunion, and now this, celebration, and felt a connection to his dad's hawk, whose freedom had led him to this new normal. Storm, now fully adopted by Noah's family, moved with a determined gait, his harness a symbol of his progress. The surgery weeks ago had mended. His spinal damage and daily walks, first tentative, now confident, had restored his strength. Vet 1, her stethoscope dangling, approached with a smile, her voice bright. "He's a miracle, Noah. Look at him go." Vet 2, holding a camera to document the event, nodded, capturing Storm's wagging tail. The clinic had reported steady improvement, his legs responding to therapy, a testament to the bond that had driven his recovery. Noah's mom and sister joined, his mom carrying a cake inscribed Storm's Homecoming, his sister waving a banner, the family a unit strengthened by this journey. Noah knelt, offering Storm a treat, a piece of chicken from the picnic table, his voice warm. "You're amazing, buddy." Storm's nose twitched, his tail wagging furiously as he took the treat, his lick on Noah's hand a familiar seal of their bond, now enriched with mobility. The air was rich with the scent of pine from the trail, the sweet aroma of the cake and the warm musk of Storm's fur, a sensory celebration that filled Noah with pride. The ranger, his boots crunching on the gravel, clapped Noah's shoulder. "This trail's yours, kid. You've changed this place." The crowd cheered, some wiping tears, the community's embrace a living tribute to their story. The evening unfolded with music from a local band, their notes drifting over Storm's path, the clinic pen's lights replaced by lanterns, strung along the trail. Neighbors had brought blankets, food, and stories, rescues of their own pets inspired by Noah and Storm. The shelter director presented Noah with a certificate naming him an honorary ambassador, the fundraiser's success, funding a new adoption program. The air softened, the scent of grilled burgers and pine mingling, a festive tapestry that deepened the moment. Noah thought of the past weeks, Storm's first steps, daily walks, the community's gifts, and felt a legacy echoing his dad's, Hawk, whose perseverance had shaped his path. The celebration stretched into the night, the crowd thinning but the joy lingering. His mom cut the cake, sharing slices with laughter, his sister feeding Storm a tiny piece under Vet 1's nod. The ranger joined, recounting the day's rescue with a grin, the animal control officers nodding in agreement, their earlier tension a distant memory. Noah sat on a blanket, Storm's head in his lap, the dog's steady breathing a comfort. The creek's hum drifted faintly, a lifeline from the park, the firs a green frame for this new normal. Vet 2 handed Noah a photo album of Storm's recovery, his smile warm. "Keep this memory alive." The next day promised a dawn of routine, morning walks, school, and shelter visits. But tonight was theirs. Noah imagined Storm running fully. One day his tail high, his steps sure, a miracle unfolding with each season. The park's story would endure, a tale of a boy and a dog, nature and community intertwined, tears of awe and joy left in its wake. He whispered to Storm, "This is our life now." The words a vow as the night deepened. In Seattle, where the wild and the human met, this celebration marked a healed bond, a legacy that would grow with each step, a story of compassion that would inspire forever. The firs rustled faintly in the distance, the creek sang its lullaby, and the city held its breath, celebrating the dawn of Noah and Storm's new normal.